Hi, my name is LaRonda Jones, and I wanted to share my story in regards to the recent season of life God has transitioned me into. So, a few months ago, God told me to quit my job, and I wanted to share my testimony of just what transpired or just what happened during that season of transition. So, just give you kind of a background. I worked at a large company in downtown Atlanta. For 3 years, I had been working at the company, and at the end of the summer of 2015, God was pressing upon my heart to quit my job. And I know that that sounds, totally different than I think most people would kind of do or whatnot, or pretty much move and act in obedience to. So during that time, I really sought God in prayer and fasting and just any way I knew how to just really confirm that that's in fact what God was telling me to do. So during that time, I received multiple confirmations, as I sought him. And I, sought out wise counsel, spoke with accountability. And, I had to have, scriptures on hand and just, words or whatnot that I could speak over myself because I was dealing with like doubt and fear and worry during that season because God was, pressing upon my heart to do something that was just so different and required such a big and bold step of faith. So in the midst of that, like I said, I spoke with accountability wise counsel, and there was one accountability person in particular that I spoke with that shared with me a story of someone that they knew who went through a similar season in the past. And during her time of sharing the story with me, she mentioned that the person who went through a similar season actually received a date from God. So, hearing that, I was like, I'm definitely about to pray for a date because I felt like God was impressing that on my heart to leave my job, but I didn't know anything in regards to when to leave or anything of that nature. And just even building up the faith to make that kind of a move, I think, took some time for me, honestly. But as I prayed for God to, confirm, like I said, he did send multiple confirmations through his word, through other people, through sermons, through just so many avenues. He really did confirm. And then even through me wanting confirmation for the date that he had given me, he even sent that. So the date that God told me to leave my job was on October 19th. And, when I received the date, I was kind of like, did I make this date up in my mind? Because, sometimes we'll hear from God or we'll hear like a thought or whatnot, but then we'll like question, like, was that from God or did I make that up? So then, like, I also did ask for confirmation for the date that I felt like God had put in my spirit or that, I kind of had that I had received. So I had the day and it was getting closer and closer to the day. And I'm, really like, okay, am I going to have like the courage and faith to even make this move? Because it was a big step of faith for me because God didn't, tell me to leave my job and then go here. It wasn't like, LaRonda, leave, then go here. It was like, LaRonda, leave, like just go. And that was really challenging, honestly, for me at first to kind of accept because I was trying to look for the next step before actually moving. But he told me to leave, so I wanted to be obedient to him. And in regards to how he confirmed the date, he actually had it so that the Thursday before the Monday that he told me to leave, which was October 19th, that Monday. So that Thursday before, my manager actually called me in her office and told me about a position that was available that they wanted to make available for me or whatnot, where I would move on to another team and then that position would have the opportunity to transition into a leadership role. My manager's telling me this in the office. I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, this is definitely not what God has told me to do because I knew that he was putting on my heart to actually leave soon. But I also was curious, during that time, I asked her, what is the date that you need to know my response by? And the date that she told me, lo and behold, was October 19th. So then I'm really sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is really about to happen. Like God definitely just confirmed this date. So, of course, that weekend, in between that Thursday and Monday, I typed up my resignation letter, whatnot, and I told my parents, of course, that I was about to, in fact, quit my job. So that Monday, I pretty much walked into my manager's office and I told her that I wanted to decline the opportunity that was presented the past Thursday, as well as resign from my job. And it was just, of course, I think shocking for her, but also a blessing in that she actually just like spoke life into me and told me that God had my back during that time. So that was definitely a blessing. And then even during the transition, when coworkers and other people who heard that I, was leaving the company would come up and ask, like, hey, I heard that you're leaving, like, where are you going to or whatnot? And I pretty much was like, God, I'm trusting God right now because God hadn't told me where to go next. So I was able to kind of share with others just, God and just Christ or whatnot, just in regards to the next move or the next season that he was transitioning me into. So that's kind of, I guess, my story overall in regards to, how that went about or whatnot, or just the season of transition. And so I turned in my resignation letter on October 19th. And then I actually had my last day of work on November 2nd. So it's been exactly 2 months since I haven't been working. And God has definitely been good. He's showed me that he's got me, that he is who he says he is, and he's trustworthy and he's faithful. And I know that so many times, God may, ask us to do things that require faith and require trust. And I know, that it says in his word, that without faith it's impossible to please him. So I know that during the time that he was pressing on my heart to leave, yes, it is a bold move. It's a move that requires a big step of faith, but I also knew that I needed to move into obedience to what he was telling me to do. So I wanted to share my story, like I said, to encourage others. Just has this season been, super comfortable and like, woo, like awesome. I wouldn't say it's been like, cake or peaches and whatnot, but it's definitely been a season where I've learned to trust God and walk with him and really just get into his word and seek him in prayer and just, know that he is going to order my steps and that his word is true and that he is who he says he is. So, like I said, the purpose of sharing my testimony is to encourage others, to inspire others. God may be asking someone else to not quit their job, or maybe, but maybe move in a similar fashion in regards to taking a step of faith or just completely trusting him. But I wanted to just testify that he is who he says he is. He's good. He's faithful. And that's my story.